Hi everyone, it's me again. I decided to do another impromptu Facebook Live chat. As usual, you may hear my dogs in the background barking. My pug is asleep and she's usually snoring this time of night, so you'll have to pardon uh, pardon the pug. I'm wearing my pajamas, so pardon that as well. And I didn't wash my makeup off yet from earlier, but here I am. I thought I'd hang out with you guys for a little bit. I was watching the People's Choice Awards. I saw Justin Timberlake and Ellen DeGeneres, which was basically the only people I wanted to see, and so I figured I would DVR it and watch the rest tomorrow and come hang out with all of you for a little bit. See if there's anything that anyone else wanted to talk about, because the live chat last night got a lot of good responses, and so I want to try to start doing these more regularly. I know last night's was pretty long. It was about an hour and 5 minutes. I'm usually going to try to keep them to about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, give or take. Occasionally I'll do a long one like I did last night. But I figured I would just pop on. I'm going to start maybe calling them my nightly check-ins, although they certainly won't be nightly. I won't be able to make the promise to keep up with that. But I want to check in with you guys. I want to see what everyone has going on, and I want to see if you guys have any questions for me or anything that you wanted to address, anything you want to ask either about rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease, or my writing work, or really anything else that you want to talk about. As most of you know, I'm an advocate for all chronic illnesses. Rather, I should say I'm not an advocate for the illness. I mean, in the sense that I'm not exactly a cheerleader for these things, but I do advocate on behalf of patients with autoimmune diseases and disabilities. I try to share my story in hopes that it will help or inspire or educate other people, and in hopes that it will empower you to share your story. I've had several dozen different health conditions that I've been diagnosed with, so I know a little bit about a lot of them, but I don't proclaim to be an expert, of course, in any of them. I'm not a doctor, but I will offer any advice that I can and offer any tips or insights that I can. So if you have any questions specifically about my journey, or if there's some way that I can help you in your journey, just let me know. And I don't have any set topics in mind for tonight, so I'm opening it up to questions right now. So if anyone has a question or just a comment or a suggested talking point, let me know. I am happy to respond to comments, answer questions, whatever they may be. In the meantime, I will tell you about a blog that I'm working on. I am working on a blog post about some of the emotions that come along with chronic illness and or disability. I started it earlier today, and I'm going to hopefully finish it tonight and put it up within the next hour or so. I'm a little bit of a night owl. I'm really sore in the evening, actually, but on evenings that I'm not sore, I tend to be really productive. You know, with these types of illnesses, you're not always on the same schedule as anyone else. So a lot of times I'm working at night, sometimes by choice, and sometimes due to painsomnia, which I'm sure some of you know what painsomnia is. Again, I apologize for my pug snoring in the background, but I see that I got my first question. So Andrea said, what drops, etc. do I do for my eyes? Yes, Andrea, I do have Sjogren's. Now, my Sjogren's is mild, and it is secondary to my RA and celiac and other conditions, but I do have it, a very mild case of it. So let me see. I think I actually have a couple of my eye drops right here, so I will show you what they are. I'm just making sure that I grab the right ones. Okay, first off, I wear glasses as much as possible. I have about, I think I talked about this yesterday, 4 pairs of glasses. I just got a new pair tonight. Not these, different ones, but that's like one of my big splurges is eyeglasses and purses. So I wear glasses more than contacts just to protect my eyes, and I just got my first pair of prescription sunglasses as well. So I do wear glasses and prescription sunglasses. When I wear contacts, I either do the AccuView Oasis because they are very moisturizing, and you know, moisture is important for Sjogren's, and also I just got new ones. They're sitting over there. I forget exactly what they're called, but they are, I think, by AccuView, and they're dailies. So they're supposed to be healthier for your eyes because you dispose them every day instead of, sorry, sorry about that, instead of, you know, throwing them away after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's one recommendation. If you wear contacts, you can switch to the daily disposables. And if you wear contacts, try to maybe wear glasses more than contacts just because it gives your eyes a little bit of a break. And if you have Sjogren's, like Andrea and like myself, you need to give your eyes as much of a break as possible. So in terms of the drops, and I'm sorry, the lighting in here is not good, and I also am having some problems. I'm trying to get comfortable and also just get set up. I might have to do what I did last night, so just bear with me for a second. I'm trying to do this so that I can be comfortable and talk to you guys. But again, I don't have my, that's really dark, huh? I wonder why it worked last night. Okay. Anyway, I'll just hold it. Okay. So in terms of the drops that I use, here are some of the things I use. So right now I'm on an antibiotic eye drop. So that is called ciprofloxacin hydrochloride ophthalmic solutions. Basically, it's like a Cipro eye drop. So anytime that I have inflammation or a sign of a possible infection in my eyes from the Sjogren's or otherwise, I get antibiotic eye drops. The irony about that is the pug you hear snoring in the background also gets antibiotic eye drops that she's on. So I'm on those currently, but those aren't a daily thing. Daily use, one of the ones that I use is this Systane Balance, Systane, Systane Balance Lubricant Eye Drop Restorative Formula. Okay, that was recommended to me by my ophthalmologist. Then at night, I will use, and not every night, but if my eyes are really dry, I use Bausch & Lomb Soothe Lubricant Eye Ointment nighttime. It's overnight relief of severe dry eye. It's a sterile lubricant eye ointment. Trying to show you as best I can. There you go. So those are the ones I use, and then I also use the, I think it's, the brand is Refresh. When I'm wearing my contacts, I use the Refresh eye drops. And when I do use contacts, I use BioTrue solution that was recommended to me as well. I haven't had to go on Restasis yet, which is the prescription eye drops for Sjogren's, because my bouts with the dry eye are pretty periodic. It flares a lot. They're not consistently dry. So I don't have to be on Restylane yet. Is it Restylane? I might be saying the wrong name. Maybe someone can correct me out there. Whatever the prescription eye drops are for Sjogren's, I'm drawing a blank, but I'm not on those yet. The only prescription I'm on for my eyes right now, like I said, is the antibiotic eye drop, and then I use the lubricant eye ointment at night when they're real dry, and then my drops are the Systane, and the contact solution I use is the BioTrue. So thank you for asking, Andrea, and your doctor, your ophthalmologist or rheumatologist should be able to recommend what products they think will work for you and your Sjogren's. Kendall asks if I have a YouTube channel. Well, it's funny you should ask that. I do and I don't. So I have a YouTube channel for my entertainment and pop culture blog called Glitzberg. I do not use it very frequently at all. I've never been a big YouTuber. I've only started doing these Facebook Live videos within the last maybe 6 months or so. I am a little bit older than like the YouTube generation. So I just never really got as into it as people who are even like 4, 5, 6 years younger than I am. I have thought about starting a YouTube channel, and I have thought about starting a podcast. I kind of want to do both. I don't know if that's something that people would be interested in though. And as you know, when you're ill and dealing with sickness every day, you kind of have to balance your time and budget your time wisely. So I bought all this podcasting equipment, and of course, my iPad and my desktop computer and my laptop computer and my smartphone, all have the capabilities to do live streaming and webcasting and things. I just never got into YouTube. I know a lot of people who do. I was just more of the blogging generation, and when I was in high school, the big thing was America Online Instant Messenger, and then in college it was MySpace, and I always just got into blogging, and then Twitter was huge. So I'm really into social media, but I haven't done the YouTube. I should say I haven't taken the plunge into YouTube yet. I have a couple videos up. Like you can see a speech I gave at a juvenile arthritis family event at the local children's museum. So I have that up on YouTube, and you can see an acceptance speech I gave when I won an award being inducted into the Pittsburgh Fashion Hall of Fame. And I actually relate that awards acceptance speech back to my RA and chronic illness. And then there's a couple random interviews and things I've done for my entertainment blog, and some random footage of my cats and stuff. So it's really random. So my username, my YouTube channel is currently Glitzburg, GLITZBURGH. I don't use it much. I've thought of doing an Arthritis Ashley YouTube, but I just don't know if people would watch. I feel like things are shifting more to these live chats, but I have been looking into maybe archiving all of these live chats and putting them up on YouTube. If any of you would like me to do a YouTube channel, if you show some interest in it, I might do one. Same thing goes with the podcast. I have podcasting equipment. I just haven't taken the plunge yet. I actually wanted to start a podcast about health and wellness, and really just about anything I felt like talking about. And I was going to call it the Chatty Lotus for several reasons, which I have detailed out, but I just, again, haven't taken the plunge into the podcast, haven't taken the plunge into the YouTube. But if you guys want me to do YouTube, let me know, and that might be something that I look into and maybe finally do. Maybe you're going to be the motivation that gets me to finally do it. But if you want to look at my existing YouTube videos, it is Glitzburg, GLITZBURGH. And my husband, if you want to check out his YouTube, it's more interesting than mine. He was on NBC's American Ninja Warrior. So his 2 Ninja Warrior audition videos are on YouTube, and so are a bunch of really cool mud runs and obstacle races and Tough Mudders and stuff that he has done. I'm not sure actually even what his username is on YouTube, but his name is Mike Shuck, SHUCK. So you can Google, or rather search on YouTube, Mike Shuck, Mike, M-I-K-E, Shuck, SHUCK, and then just type in Ninja Warrior or Ninja. You can see his audition videos and look at his YouTube, because it's a lot more interesting than mine. But you might want to check out, if you do follow me for the juvenile arthritis stuff and chronic illness stuff, you might want to see on my YouTube channel my Pittsburgh Fashion Hall of Fame acceptance speech, and also the speech I gave at the Children's Museum about juvenile arthritis. And yeah, guys, let me know if you want me to do a YouTube channel and or a podcast. If there is enough interest, I will maybe do both. Robin asked how old I am. I'm 33. 33. I have really been into social media and all this kind of stuff since I was like 10. We got our first computer in my household, I think, when I was in third grade, and it was the old dial-up, and I was really into America Online, and I was able to connect with really cool people back then. I didn't ever talk about my illnesses, though, when I was in elementary school or middle school or high school. I mean, I didn't really talk about them online, at least. So for me, the internet was a place where I got to talk about music and fashion and celebrities and all that kind of fun stuff. So I didn't really get into the chronic illness blogging or patient advocacy work or arthritis advocacy work until after college, actually. But yeah, I just kind of was in a weird cutoff there with certain social media things as far as my generation and my age demographic go. Never was a big YouTuber and never like understood the whole culture of YouTube celebrities. I kind of like just missed it, or maybe it just never I never caught on to it. But yeah, so I'm 33. I'm newly 33. I turned 33 in September, and it still feels really weird to say I'm 33 because in a lot of ways I feel a lot younger, and then in some ways I feel a lot older. My body certainly feels older, but otherwise I feel younger. Yeah, Robin. Yeah, the eye dryness comes and goes for me with the Sjogren's. It's not a constant. But I have a lot of other eye problems that I talked about in my chat last night, so I'm always having weird eye issues. Tracy asked, hi, have I ever heard of CBD oil? If so, have I tried it? If CBD oil, I think that's cannabis. Is that correct? The short answer is no. I have used, I don't feel like digging it out right now, to be quite honest with you, but I do have like a, it's an inhaler. It's not really an inhaler, but it's called an inhaler. It's a cannabis essential oil inhaler. All natural, was made by some essential oil company. I ordered it from Amazon. But there's no, you just inhale, like you just, it looks like a, the tube, okay, actually I'll see if I could just grab it and show you, because it's not going to really make sense unless I show you. So let's see, I'll go over to my little box of, I have this huge box of essential oil stuff. See if I can find it. I gotta move all my perfumes and stuff. Oh, for someone that asked about my contacts earlier, there they are. They're the AccuView Oasis 1 Days. Okay, so I haven't used like formal official CBD cannabis oil, but I do have this. It's an essential oils, I don't know, essential oil cannabis inhaler. So it's just essential oil that kind of smells like cannabis oil, I guess. I really don't even know what it is. It's legal, it's safe. Regular marijuana is not legal in my state yet. The laws are in the process of being passed. So no, I haven't used it formally. Meaning I don't think that thing I just showed you is actually CBD oil. It just smells like it. No, I haven't used CBD oil or anything like that. I wish I could tell you one way or another. You know, if I thought it worked. I'm not at all against medical marijuana. I'm actually for medical marijuana. I think it can help a lot of people, and I think that it has less side effects than a lot of the medications we take. So once it becomes legalized here, I wouldn't be opposed to trying it. However, my rheumatologist is very strongly opposed to it, at least one of them. I have a couple rheumatologists that I see, and one of them has flat out told me he will not prescribe it. He is not a fan of any kind of cannabis or medical marijuana in any form. So, I can't comment too much on it because it's not legal here. And I don't have a ton of experience in that area, and I wouldn't feel comfortable obtaining it in any other way other than with a doctor's prescription. Just because I'm an anxious person and I would be too scared to try it otherwise. So I'm waiting for it to become legal, and once it does, if I get a script for it, I will try it and I will report back to you guys. But I'm certainly not against it, and you know, I hear a lot of good things about it. I'd be willing to try it. I just don't even know how to go about getting it here and doing so legally and safely. So, yeah, and I've actually, for those of you who are interested, I've written a couple articles about medical marijuana and the different types on healthline.com. So I write for healthline.com, healthline.com. Medical marijuana use was one of the first articles I actually did for them. And yeah, you guys are talking about, like, it certainly comes in a bunch of different forms. Some people eat it, some people smoke it, some people vape it. You know, yeah, and like I'm seeing, okay, so I'm seeing different responses. Some people say it works wonders, and some people say it makes things worse. You know, and that's what I'm scared of. I'm not morally opposed to it, but I'm worried that it either just wouldn't help me, or I have actually heard stories of people using CBD or medical marijuana in some other forms that it actually increased anxiety. And with my POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, I get a really high heart rate. My blood pressure drops low. I worry that it might affect that stuff, because I know it can lower your blood pressure a bit, which is obviously beneficial to some people. But for someone like myself, it might be unsafe. And I also worry that it could increase my anxiety, even though a lot of people use it to help their anxiety. I just don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, and I can't comment on it too much. But I'll certainly talk about it more freely once it's legalized here. I do wish the stigma of it would go away, because I think people that are really against it or really morally opposed to it maybe just aren't educated on all the facts, the potential benefits. In essence, I think if you are doing it above board and safely and getting it where it's regulated and been vetted and you're getting it from a safe place, I think that it has a lot less risks to it than a lot of the drugs we take every day, whether they're over the counter or prescription. So I think the stigma against it is unfair. And I have to admit, I apologized to one of my ex-boyfriends. So I dated this guy for a long time in my 20s, and he smoked marijuana, and not for medical reasons. Well, sort of for medical reasons. He had real bad anxiety, and he said it helped him. And I was so judgmental. Like, I was way up on my high horse, and I have to admit that. I was super judgmental about it. It was kind of, I mean, there was a lot of reasons we broke up, but that was a big one. And it's kind of funny now, because it's how many years later. I mean, of course, I'm happily married, and I don't know what he's doing with his life, but I wish I could just apologize for being so judgmental about that, because now here I am, like, waiting for legislation to get passed because I think it could help. So I maybe rushed to judgment too quickly there, and I think a lot of people do that. There is certainly a little bit of a stigma attached to medical marijuana use, but then again, there is, oh, Robin just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say there's also, you know, a stigma attached to narcotics, meaning, you know, opiates and other narcotics and painkillers. So it's kind of like a no-win situation. We need to help ourselves have a good quality of life and less pain and less discomfort. And if there are legal, safe ways to make our lives more comfortable and make us have better quality of life, then I don't think people should judge. Now, that said, I know a lot of people misuse and abuse certain drugs, and unfortunately, that's a very real reality that there is no denying it. if anyone tries to deny that there is an opioid epidemic, I can't take that seriously because there certainly is one. That said, it's just not fair to stigmatize all chronic pain patients who use painkillers. You can't lump everyone into the category of an addict or into the category of someone that's abusing these drugs. There is a big problem when it comes to narcotics and opioids. But at the same time, it's just unfortunate that those people who are misusing them or overusing them or abusing them or taking advantage of their prescription or whatever, those people are giving people who rightfully need them and truly are warranted to be taking those types of medications, they're giving them a bad name. So it's not fair that a few bad apples spoil the bunch, but that's how it is for everything, and that's why certain things get a stigma. Now, obviously, research will show that medical marijuana and in all its various forms is safer than opiates and narcotics. That's a fact. But it's not for everybody. So, whatever one of those things people decide to do, if they decide to do either one of them, that's their journey. That's their decision along with their doctors. And I don't think it's fair to automatically label or stigmatize somebody just based on a medical choice they're making for themselves. I think that we are all entitled to make our own medical decisions, as long as we're doing so, with the right, what's the word I'm looking for? So as long as we are doing it on the up and up for the right reasons, fully educated and armed with facts, then as long as it's safe and your doctor is cool with it and you're not hurting anybody else and you're not harming yourself, then I'm not going to judge. The people that I have an issue with are the people who give the rest of us a bad name. And it's a shame that there are days that I am in pain and I won't even get an opiate or narcotic prescription filled because I'm afraid that I'm going to be labeled as a drug seeker. Like, that's not fair. And I know that's my own issue, my own insecurity, my own hang up. But it's not fair that certain people and certain types of people have created a culture to where I even have to feel insecure about getting a legal drug that I need filled for myself when I suffer with an incurable pain condition. So that's kind of what's BS in my mind. Not people that use them right and mindfully and sparingly and as needed and as they're supposed to. So that bugs me. The stigma of a lot of things relating to chronic illness bug me. That includes the stigma of medical marijuana. That includes the stigma of opiates and narcotics. That includes the stigma of this idea that these illnesses are all in your head or that you cause them yourself. The stigma of people needing to go on disability or take time off work, all of that stuff just drives me crazy. I'm very much against judging people based on the actions of a few. I don't like stereotypes. I don't like when people try to stereotype me, and so I try not to do it to others. And actually one of my recent blogs on arthritisashley.com talks about this. Not necessarily, it has nothing to do with opiates and nothing to do with medical marijuana. It's just about the idea of trying to lump people into certain groups and stereotypes and thinking in absolutes, and life just isn't like that. There is really usually not a one-size-fits-all answer for anything, and that includes treatment options for rheumatoid arthritis and all these other conditions. So you just got to listen to your instincts, educate yourself, make sure you're informed on the drugs that you're taking and what the potential risks and side effects are, weigh them against the benefits, do your homework, be your own best advocate, empower yourself, work with your doctor. If you don't agree with your doctor, you can always seek out a second opinion. And at some point in life, and I'm learning this myself, you just have to kind of stop caring so much what other people think, and do what's best for you and your health. Self-care is number one. As they say, you cannot fill from an empty cup. So what that means is, or rather, I guess the saying would be you can't pour from an empty cup. So you can't give yourself to other people and give your love to other people and help other people or help contribute to society unless you're taking care of yourself first. And, people use the analogy all the time about the masks on the airplane, the oxygen masks. You put the mask over your mouth and your nose before helping your child. And that's reality. You have to take care of yourself first. Self-care is so vital, and it's so often overlooked in today's society that we're all so busy, and we're also worried about what other people are doing, that we don't just take time to be mindful and do what's best for us. So yeah, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but you gotta practice balance, practice mindfulness, go into every decision you make, medical or otherwise, being informed on the facts. I'm a big fan of facts. Some people in my family are sick of me talking about facts, but facts are really important to me. And I don't think that you can always make informed decision without the facts. And I think that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. So yeah, just arm yourself with knowledge and stay on top of things when it comes to your health. So let me catch up on some comments here. So back to the medical marijuana topic. Yeah, like a lot of people say that the CBD oil helps them because you don't feel high like you would with just smoking marijuana. And so you don't have that mind-altering sensation or that loss of control. So that's a benefit that a lot of people state about medical marijuana. Again, I don't know because I've never used it. We'll see if I actually get to use it, considering my doctor said he's against medical marijuana, but we'll see. Yeah, so yeah, the stigma, a lot of people are commenting on the stigma. Yeah. Definitely, it is funny. Robin said it seems like it's switched because there used to be a really bad stigma against marijuana and not so much with pain pills, and now it definitely has switched. And I think a part of that too is obviously people overdose a lot from narcotics and opiates, and you don't really see overdoses from medical marijuana or just marijuana in general. So I think part of the reason for the stigma shift was just realizing that one is safer than the other, but that doesn't mean that gives anyone the right to judge or label people that use one or the other. It's kind of silly. There's always going to be something out there that people are outraged about, though. I mean, for the longest time, alcohol was prohibited. So now it's part of our social culture, and things change so rapidly. I mean, I watched the show This Is Us. It's one of my favorite shows on TV right now. And just last night, there was an episode in the hospital, and the guy lit up a cigarette right in the hospital near the neonatal wing. And I just thought, what the heck? It was like in the late 70s, early 80s, and people were allowed to smoke cigarettes in the hospital. So it's just kind of funny, things change, cultural norms change, value systems change, and some of that is for the better, and some of that is based on facts and science, and then some of it is just social shifts based on what is acceptable at any given time. Obviously, some of it has to do with health and safety, and sometimes it has to do with other factors, such as just whatever the norm of the day is. Sometimes it's religious, sometimes it's political. I mean, this stuff shifts all the time, and I'm thinking now as we progress in terms of medicine and medical treatments that most of the shifts that we see are going to be based on health and wellness and just safety and efficacy. So I'm hoping that's the case. Whereas it used to kind of just be people were stigmatized and laws were passed and things like that only based on judgments and opinions. So I'll be interested to see how this changes in my lifetime in regards to medical marijuana and opiate use, and how we can make opiate use safer so that the people that need it can use it safely and have access to it so that they can improve their quality of life, but also deal with the epidemic of people misusing it and becoming addicted and abusing it and overdoses and things like that. And I'll be curious to see where all the legislation goes on medical marijuana on, the local and national level. Yeah, it's all about checks and balances. If you guys follow me a lot, I always talk about balance. It's a huge thing to me. I think it's really, really, really important in all areas of life to practice balance. So, balance resting with activity, balance taking care of yourself and relaxing and resting with also making sure to try to stay as active as possible and as productive as possible and live your life to the fullest. There's a balance between remaining positive and being realistic, because it's great to be positive and optimistic and hopeful, but nobody can be that way all the time. That's just not real, and that's something I'm going to be talking about in an upcoming blog. Nobody wants to be around a Debbie Downer or a negative Nancy or someone that's just, the Chicken Little type. The sky is falling and everything's always tragic and catastrophic and morbid, and someone that's always complaining. But at the same time, it's really unhealthy to keep all those feelings inside if you are struggling. So your feelings and how you cope with illness, that's all about balance too. And I believe that when it comes to diet and exercise too, I think, everything in moderation. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of balance. I talk about that a lot in my live chats, a lot in my social media posts, a lot in my books and my blogs. And that whole system of checks and balances, it applies in so many areas of life, whether it's your health, whether it's your friendships and relationships, even politics and government. Checks and balances are so important when it comes to medical laws and legislation and, the regulation of certain drugs, and even just in our everyday life. We need to live with a sense of balance and mindfulness, and we also need to have people check us when we are getting out of line. So, yes, I mean that on both the literal and figurative level, that checks and balances are super, super important for everybody, but especially for those of us who have the extra added burden in life of coping with an illness or disability on top of just the day-to-day stuff. So Michelle asked about purple toes. Raynaud's syndrome. Oh yeah, Robin answered that for you. I never can say it right. I don't know if it's Raynaud's or Raynaud's. I've heard it both ways, but the point is, you can Google that. Michelle, that's what Robin spelled out for you there. It's Raynauds. It's a condition where it affects blood flow to your fingers and toes. A lot of times your fingers or toes can turn white or bluish or purplish. And it usually comes along with inflammation or autoimmunity. And it's usually a secondary condition. So Raynaud's is typically, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I have a lot of these things and I've dealt with a lot of these things. Typically Raynaud's, I think, comes secondary to RA and lupus and Sjogren's. I don't think it's usually a standalone or primary condition, but I could be wrong. Yeah, Robin said a lot of doctors are not fond of educating patients, and she runs into that problem frequently. So it's kind of funny. I read an article in the New York Times about biases towards patients, and a lot of ER doctors are super biased against female patients. So even female doctors and nurses admitted that they would take a male patient more seriously than a female patient. And this level of sexism in the medical industry is unacceptable. And it's really difficult to deal with, but it certainly exists. So I think females in particular have to go in there as an empowered and educated patient. Otherwise, you will not be taken seriously. You will be seen as the mad woman in the attic, the hysterical, emotional female. It's really not fair, but it's the way it is. There have been several surveys and studies done on this topic of sexism in the healthcare industry and a bias against female patients. So, yeah, you're right, Robin. A lot of doctors do not love when a patient comes in and are educated. However, at the same time, I have found several that actually respect it very much. I have had a lot of doctors in the past year or two actually ask me if I'm a doctor or a nurse or a med student. They all seem to think I am in the healthcare field because I'm knowledgeable about it. And because I am educated on so many things in the field of medicine, they respect me, and I've proven myself to be a patient who is a steward of my own health and who is educated. I never try to play doctor, so I don't go in there and self-diagnose, but I do make suggestions, and I ask a lot of questions, and I listen to them, and I expect them to listen to me, and I treat them with a certain level of respect, and I expect that same level of respect in return. And if they are rude to me or condescending or patronizing, I will flip it right back on them. I am usually not a confrontational person. I'm very mild-mannered and sometimes actually shy, believe it or not. And I do get intimidated easily sometimes, especially in a situation when you are vulnerable as a patient, especially if you're dealing with a male doctor who comes in there all cocky and egotistical and talking down to you. I used to kind of shut down, but now I stand up to them, and I prove myself to be educated because I am, and I use that power to let them know, listen, I know my body, I know about my illnesses, let's work together to figure this out. And I do so in a calm fashion, though, because I think if you do show too much emotion and get over emotional about it, they are, for better or for worse, less likely to take you seriously. So it's hard, but especially as women and especially as younger women, we have to command that respect with doctors. Some of them will respond well to it and some of them won't. I say the ones that do not respond well to it do not deserve your business, because let's face it, they make money off of patients. So find a different doctor if you are so lucky to be able to do so. Or get a second opinion, because you want a doctor that listens to you and respects you. A doctor-patient relationship is a two-way street, and you need to have great communication with your doctors. Otherwise, you're not going to get the level of care that you deserve. But it really is hard because they don't want you playing doctor. They don't want you consulting WebMD and Dr. Google. But you are allowed to direct the conversation as you see fit. You are allowed to ask questions, and you are allowed to make suggestions. And they may or may not listen to you, and they may or may not take you seriously. But at the same time, you as a patient also have to remember that you don't always have to listen to them either. A doctor is there to guide you and help you and protect you and provide you with knowledge and their opinion and their advice and their very valuable insight. They are highly, highly, highly educated, but they are not God, and they are not in control of your life. So bear in mind that it goes both ways. You need to have open communication, and bear in mind that, what they say isn't gold. It's not, God's word. You're allowed to question them. But at the same time, they're allowed to question you. So if they do, don't get defensive. Just keep your cool and show them that you are worthy of the respect that you're worthy of. But yeah, it is tough. I run into a lot of doctors who treat me like a child, who talk down to me, who assume I'm a bimbo, and I prove them wrong pretty quickly. And it is funny too, though, because if I'm by myself, they treat me a lot differently than if my husband's with me, which is so insulting. They are so much more respectful and open-minded, especially in an ER setting, if my husband's with me, which pretty much harkens back to what I talked about earlier with sexism, especially in the emergency department. So I'll try to find a link to that article. It's a really interesting study on gender bias in healthcare. But it is still important to be an educated patient no matter what. Who cares if doctors don't like it? It's your life, it's your body, and you're the one living with it. So you have every right, and it's almost a privilege to become educated on your own condition, and it's almost your responsibility. You're your own best advocate. You need to take the reins, be the captain of your ship, and be a steward of your own health. Yeah, Tracy, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind on the live comments, but Tracy's just saying, she feels like the overdoses from chronic pain patients is sadly an act of desperation. Yeah, Tracy, I've written some articles on suicide and depression in relation to chronic pain and disability. You can find them on healthline.com and also the arthritisashley.com website. Those two resources, or those two articles, I guess, will delve into that topic a little bit further, but That said, sometimes the overdoses from chronic pain patients are not intentional. Sometimes they are accidental. Something I've talked about before. I spoke with a reporter off the record who told me about a study that was conducted among doctors who were prescribing opiates and narcotics, and they gave them a quiz on dosing and tapering and side effects and all these different things. And the majority, I'm talking over 75% of doctors who participated in this quiz that was anonymous, got a D. They got a D grade. I mean, most of these doctors, they know enough, but maybe not enough. So they know enough to prescribe these medications, but they don't know enough about how they're affecting chronic pain patients. Because something I've discussed before is that opiates were not made for chronic pain. They were intended to use in acute medical situations. And so a lot of times they stop working, or a patient builds up a tolerance or hyperalgesia, and the doctor then doesn't know what to do, and so they keep bumping the dose up, and it becomes really problematic. And then if a patient tapers off of these drugs and becomes opiate naive again, to the status where they haven't had them for, say, a year or so, a doctor prescribing them the dose of the drug that they took a year ago that they had gone up to because they built up such a tolerance could literally kill them. It could be a fatal dose. So there needs to be a lot more education among doctors and patients and pharmacists about how to properly dose these types of drugs, when to taper down, when to dose up, how to withdraw a patient off of these drugs, and if they start back on them, what dose do you start them at, because it can be really dangerous. So I encourage anyone that is on opiates or narcotics to just really be responsible and make sure your doctor knows what they're doing, because sometimes the overdoses are an act of desperation and they are suicidal or intentional, and sometimes they are not at all intentional, and it's unfortunately due to prescribing errors. So something to be mindful of. Awesome Victoria, or D Victoria Huff, said medical marijuana is super helpful for her RA. All natural, can't hurt you. She says she vapes CBD at night before bed. Awesome. If it works for you, keep doing it. I hear a lot of people who it works for. It is proven to be very safe, but it doesn't always help everybody. As Robin said in the next comment, it makes her symptoms worse. So for her, Vicodin works. For Victoria and others, medical marijuana works. So this is one of those examples that what works for one patient doesn't necessarily work for the other. For me, opiates and narcotics really don't work that much. It's part of why I don't really use them, to be honest with you. They seem to help me really well for acute pain, like post-surgery or things like that. But for my chronic pain, the Vicodin, Percocets, oxycodone, that stuff doesn't really help me all that much, and so I just don't take it. So yeah, I'd be curious to see, once medical marijuana is legal, if that helps me or not. To each their own. Whatever works for you and whatever helps you get by, you got to do it, as long as it's legal, safe, and not hurting anyone. Yeah. Oh, awesome, Robin. Yeah, it's good that you have a medical background and you are taken seriously. I'm not always taken seriously until I start talking to them. I think then they realize I know a lot about my conditions and other conditions that I don't even have. And I'm really, really lucky to have a level of very collaborative care with my doctors. Most of them respect me very much and are very flattering in the way they speak to me, and they know I know what I'm talking about, and they very much let me direct my care as much as is legal and ethical. So they're very much allowing me to make my own medical decisions and keep everything in my own hands, and I acknowledge not everyone has that privilege, so I'm very, very lucky in that way. It hasn't always been that way. I've dealt with a lot of jerks. Oh my gosh. I have nightmare stories about some doctors, including one In my book Sick Idiot, who I called Dr. McDummy. I had a much ruder, cruder name for him when I first wrote the draft, but I changed it to Dr. McDummy to be a little bit kinder. So I have dealt with some doctors who were less than competent and also some doctors who were less than kind. Yeah, I find that a lot of times it's the hardest at the ER because the hospital doctors don't necessarily know me or know my background or know my situation, and they don't have the time to get to know me all the time. And so, they don't know whether or not to take me seriously. And so that's tough. But I do think it's kind of unfair that they treat me differently based on if my husband's there or not. That's that sexism. And I'm not one of these people that cries sexism at every little thing. I'm not like some uber feminist, but it would be naive to pretend it doesn't exist still today. And certainly there is a gender bias against women. So it is what it is. We just got to continue to stay educated and empowered. Just scrolling back through to see if I missed any comments. Oh, well, thank you. I just saw that Robin said I look great. Well, thank you very much. It was my grandma's birthday tonight, so I was out at a family birthday dinner. I didn't wash my makeup off yet. So, that is why I don't look like a zombie and why my hair is curled. And it's funny you said I looked great and asked how old I was. There's a challenge going around on Facebook where you post your high school senior picture and a current picture. And I just did it last night on my personal Facebook page, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, you look the same." And I was thinking, I wish I looked the same. And it's funny because some people say I look younger than my age, but I have to laugh because I don't. I mentally and emotionally and everything, I feel young still, but my body, I feel so old. And then my orthopedic surgeon looks at my foot and knee MRIs and X-rays, and he says, "You have you have the knee of an 80-year-old and a foot of a 90-year-old." And I'm like, okay, hey, at least I look young. My body feels like it's decrepit, but yeah, I look a little bit younger than my age, so I don't know. Maybe somehow in some universe that balances out a little bit. I don't know. I would rather, I'd rather physically feel younger and not have all these pain and health problems than look young, but I'll take what I can get. So, yeah, I don't mind the compliments when people say I look younger. Sorry, I'm reading back. Yeah. Oh, Tracy, you're so nice. Tracy said you're such an inspiration. I hope you know that. I appreciate it. I commented on this last night, though. I don't feel like an inspiration. I feel like I'm just sharing my story and sharing my journey, sharing my truth. Um, I appreciate you guys when you say that I'm inspiring, but I'm just being me, and if that helps you or in any way or inspires you in any way, then that's absolutely awesome. That's why I wrote my books. I don't think my story is more important than anybody's, but I felt like I was able to share it and willing to share it, and so I figure that it was cathartic for me to write. And so if any of you take inspiration away from it, then that's icing on the cake for me. That's such a blessing, and it makes me feel like my pain has a purpose. When I was in high school, I took a career aptitude test, and it told me I should be a social worker or, something in that kind of field. And so I've always felt called to help people, and I kind of always had that heart for service and compassion. And I think and hope that translates into my writing and my blogging and my social media work and a lot of the work that I do as Arthritis Ashley and some of the other causes I'm involved in, like the autoimmune registry and my animal advocacy work. But yeah, I was watching the show Speechless on ABC last week, and I don't watch it every week, but I just happened to catch it. And for those of you who don't know, it features a disabled lead character, and his brother is up on stage giving a speech about him for being inspiring and brave and a hero and everything. And I'm gonna misquote it, but to paraphrase, he said something like, he's not brave, he's just living his life. And so that's kind of how I feel. Like, it's awesome that people think that my story is inspiring, but I'm just living my life and sharing it with all of you. I don't know any different. I have had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis since I was around 10 or 11 years old. And so I barely remember a life before it. It's always been kind of a part of who I am and a part of my identity. And I even had some health issues prior to my formal diagnosis, which I do talk about in my book, Sick Idiot, and actually a little bit in my book, Chronically Positive, as well. So, yeah, I don't know how inspiring I am, but what I can say is that if you are inspired uh, or encouraged by anything that I say or write or do, then that makes me feel like I'm doing something right, and that really helps uplift me on days that I'm struggling, because I am not perfect, and no one is happy and positive 24/7. And there are days that I struggle very, very much with these illnesses and the things that these illnesses have taken away from me. So, if me sharing inspires you or encourages you or makes you want to make a positive change or educates you about something or helps you get a diagnosis or whatever the case may be, that stuff helps me cope, and that stuff helps me through the bad days. And I know that I must be doing something right if I can help or touch at least one life, then these illnesses and this crappy hand that I've been dealt in terms of my health, it's all a little bit more worth it, if that makes sense. I mean, it's never easy. It's never good. I'm not grateful to be sick, but I am grateful to have all of you to talk to about it and learn from. And that's what this is. Just like that doctor-patient relationship I said, this is a two-way thing too. You guys help me as much as I help you. So I'm happy to continue these dialogues. Robin said, I applaud your effort to take care of yourself no matter what. Most don't, and it's very unfair to treat you different. Yeah, I agree. It's sometimes the way people are treated when they're trying to take care of themselves and their bodies is not fair, but it's part of our journey as patients and as advocates. So it just comes with the package, and there's a lot of things that are not fair in this life with chronic illness and disability, but we got to just learn to cope with them in our own ways, and that's what I do. And I always strive to just keep moving forward and to keep trying to get better. I know that a lot of my illnesses are incurable, but that doesn't mean that I'm ever going to stop fighting or ever going to stop trying. And like Robin, I applaud anyone who makes that effort to kind of keep going. Sorry, my neck's sore. Speaking of pain and discomfort, I've been having a rough time with my neck lately. Oh, very flattered. Robin guessed I'm 25. Haha. Well, that made my night. Thank you. Ken, awesome that you found a very kind and understanding doctor. That is something you should feel very lucky and fortunate, because I've talked to so many patients on here that don't have kind doctors, don't have patient or understanding doctors, or just don't have access to the right kind of doctors and specialists in their area. And that's a huge problem that I hope will get better in the future, because everybody deserves access to quality health care and good doctors. The sad thing is that rheumatology is one of these specialties that's not very sexy. A lot of med students aren't going into rheumatology because it's not one of the highest paying medical fields, and it's not one of the most exciting medical fields. So we're losing a lot of great med students to other areas, and I really hope that there's going to be a push, getting more med students to go into fields like rheumatology and other fields dealing with autoimmune illnesses, because it's so important, and there's so many people that suffer with chronic pain, chronic illness, and disability, and we need doctors, and we need specialists, and we need care. And the chronic pain epidemic is crazy. I mean, chronic pain is such an issue in this country. We need doctors that can help treat us properly. And if they want to do something about the opioid epidemic, then we need researchers out there trying to find out other better, safer, more effective, less addictive ways to manage pain, because it's a very real problem. And right now, not enough is being done to address patients with chronic pain, and not enough is being done for the patients who are in the autoimmunity or rheumatology communities. Something you can do that may help in the future is sign up for the autoimmune registry. It's autoimmuneregistry.org, and all you do is fill out a really quick, simple, safe, secure, free survey about all of your symptoms, and about your autoimmune diagnosis. We won't share your information. I should say we won't send your identifying information anywhere or share it with anybody. Researchers in the future will have access to the anonymized data, but no specifics that will identify you. So why I'm talking about that is I think that the more these prevalence statistics are established on and among autoimmune disease and autoimmune disease patients, that I think maybe hopefully more med students will go into fields like rheumatology that are studying autoimmune illnesses, and maybe people in different areas will have access to specialists, won't have to drive an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to see a specialist, and also will have more options when it comes to their specialist. I mean, because some people are in more rural areas where there's really only one rheumatologist to even go to. So if you're in that type of situation and he's a jerk to you and you don't like him and he doesn't listen to you or respect you, you're kind of stuck with him, and it shouldn't be that way. So hopefully some things will change moving forward, and I think that we as patients can help encourage this change. I know the American College of Rheumatology is doing a lot to try to encourage doctors to go into the rheumatology field, and I think the Arthritis Foundation is too. So continue to support them and support the autoimmune registry and participate in the autoimmune registry, and we'll straighten this stuff out. We'll get you guys access to some better doctors who understand the autoimmune and pain epidemics. Sorry, I'm just reading comments. It's interesting to see people's experience with cannabis. You know, some people seem like they have more pain from it, and some people say they have less pain. But the amount of, like Sue is talking with Robin on here, on this thread, about how a lot of this, the success and tolerance levels of CBD and cannabis, which in essence is medical marijuana, how a lot of it depends on the amount of THC and CBD, or the strain, or experimenting with different plants, and maybe even how you're using them. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of different options in that whole realm that I'm a little bit ignorant of, because I haven't yet really experienced any of that, because it's not an option here. So it's definitely something I'll have to educate myself on. A great thing about social media is you can always find other patients who have experience with these things and can kind of guide you and give you their input. Sorry, neck is still killing me. Okay. Oh, Ken, very nice. I'm glad I found you too. I'm always glad to connect with new followers and have people join in the conversation, because these live chats kind of stink when there aren't people participating. Sue, I love it. Sue said you're the bomb.com, Ashley. That kind of made my day. Awesome. So this live chat was particularly successful for me because I got called the bomb.com and told that I look 25 years old. So I'll take it. And I learned a little bit about medical marijuana. And, I think that we've shared some great stuff here. I've already gone way over the amount of time that I said I was going to do this for. So I don't even know. I can't even see a live counter of of how long this is going on for, but I've probably overstayed my welcome. So, on that note, since my neck is also killing me now, I think that I'm gonna go wash my face and go to bed. Maybe do a little bit of reading before bed, and if any of you want to do any reading, might I recommend three little books. One is called Sick Idiot, one is called Chronically Positive, and one is called To Exist. They are all by this wonderful young author named Ashley Boynes Shuck, aka me, Arthritis Ashley. You can also check out my blog, arthritisashley.com, and my website, abshuck.com. Let me know if you guys have any other questions or need anything else. As you know, I have a lot of info on essential oils and all that kind of fun stuff. I will chat with you guys tomorrow probably, or whenever I do another live chat. Like I said, I'm aiming to do a couple of these per week, so stay tuned. I'm going to stagger them at different times throughout the day. That way people from all over have the opportunity to participate. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you have a healthy-ish, as healthy as we can be, night, and a relatively pain-free night. Be well, take care of yourselves, and I'm sending you lots of love and light always. Good night, sweet dreams, and thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, bye-bye.